So we take the chorus, I'd sing the chorus, and we redo the beat. And then for the verses, like the opening of the video would show him writing random words on like coffee filters or something stupid. And then I just see the word and it would inspire something and I'd start freestyling.
This podcast is about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record you have or the EP coming out and the latest songs. I don't know if you mind tapping in a little bit to the Timeflies stuff because I know it's part of your journey. We won't hang there very long, but just curious.
Let's
cool, man. Awesome. So are you from New York originally?
I am from New York, yes.
Born and raised?
Born and raised just outside New York City.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
So I was raised by two masshole parents, which is what people slang for people from Massachusetts.
Sure.
I was raised in a Red Sox onesie. And so that was a lot of tough times growing up being a Red Sox fan, but I'm also a Knicks fan and Rangers. Anyway, it's weird. But New York was, you had the city right there. I lived in a suburb where every parent took the train into the city to go work in Manhattan. So it was a really interesting but awesome childhood to have that around the corner, but also have kind of a quieter life growing up. And so got into kind of performing. I was always drawn to music and performance and stuff like that. And so I was joined a gospel choir and was like, I don't know, I just always like had the bug for that kind of stuff, but I was very nervous about being on stage, which would change later.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Well, did you have as a kid growing up, would you guys access the train and go to New York quite often? Like with friends, would you guys go, let's head into the city for the day or whatever?
There was no open container law on trains.
Oh, wow.
So it would be like, that's kind of like, we would even like ride the train just to whatever.
Yeah, but, sure. Of course.
But yeah, we went in the city a little bit. Not as much as like looking back, I wish we did, it's like, I'm sure for a lot of people listening, it's like, you like find an abandoned spot in the woods and,
that's the party spot.
Kids. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it's just because growing up with such access, to be able to go pretty much anywhere in New York by just hopping on a subway or a train is pretty crazy.
That's if the parents didn't have a say in it, they were
right. But in reality, like you could be like, oh, mom, I'm going to head to, Manhattan and then just get on and go to Brooklyn or, wherever. If you had the cash.
No, you're not.
But you had the freedom to.
You're right.
Right on. You talked about being in a gospel choir early on. How early were you learning music or picking up an instrument?
I was, let's see, pretty early on, I got into playing guitar and singing, and then I just started. I had a very weird taste in music. Like I kind of missed a lot of the scene of like the early pop punk stuff that a lot of my friends were into because my parents were such music enthusiasts, and I'm blessed. Like my first concert ever was Bruce Springsteen, and then I went to like
rad.
Yeah, I went to a lot of like classic rock, and I would fall asleep every night to James Taylor, New Moonshine, or like, I don't know if people fall asleep to music playing, but I was like, I am addicted to like the classic rock harmonies. They're not like super standard thirds and fifths. Like there's a lot of movement. And so that influenced me a lot. And then much to their dismay, I dove headfirst into 90s hip hop. And then, a lot of Kanye stuff, but like I was so influenced by hip hop. And then, that's kind of brought me to where I am in terms of like this hip hop, fast, rhythmic. Even if I'm singing, it's usually pretty rhythmic, and then big harmonies. So that explains a lot there.
That's cool. And what like were you, in the chorus at school? Like, how did your like journey so and so begin? Like you talked about playing like guitar and stuff. Were there lessons involved or?
Not really. I was doing it terribly, but doing it enough to like. I was never the person who's like, can you play this? But I was, because every time I picked it up, I would start like writing or humming something. And and so I would write a lot of stuff, but I never thought about like, oh, I'll release a song or do something like that. But my high school, I was blessed in Mamaroneck High School. They had this program called PACE. It was this performing arts classes. And it was like, I did it once as like, someone was like, you should try this. And it was just like, this is a class like doing like do big arm circles and make your face wide and then small and like now perform an interpretive, and it's like, what is happening? But it was so freeing for me on like a spiritual level to be like, I had this shyness, and I was very, very small. I graduated high school at like 5'5", and I'm 6 feet now. So I was like,
Wow.
I was the small kid. And so I was shy, and this put me in a headspace of like, no one cares. Just do what you're gonna do. You know, like people just want to see you be you. And so that was very freeing, and would open me up later when I got to college and started band and everything.
Yeah. So you weren't in a band in high school? It didn't come
Uh,
until college?
no, not really. I mean, like that. Well, I never performed with a band. I was in like a bunch of basement bands. You know, and
Okay.
we were terrible, but that's where you get good.
Right.
And then yeah, I got to college, and the hip hop stuff had me into. There was this um song. It was Big L and Jay-Z 7-minute freestyle, and I memorized every single word of that.
Oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
like, I could do like both their freestyle. They would go back and forth in this freestyle,
Mhm.
and I would do it. And then I realized quickly that like, damn, I'm like good at freestyling. Like I can think like a phrase ahead, which allows me to set up something,
Mhm.
a thought. And so it was like senior year of high school, and I was at this party, and these kids were in a circle, and I was like, oh man, are they freestyling? You know, I'm the shy kid, and
Right.
the kids saying like socks, and I got it with the clocks or something like that. And I'm like, I just like stepped into the circle and just had my moment of just
Just
ripped
tore 'em
this
up.
kid apart. Yeah, I just ripped it with like all these different cadences, and everyone's looking at me like, I know I've seen this kid, but I've never seen this kid in my life. What the hell? And I was like, damn, I can do this. And so then fast forward to freshman year, I'm at a party, and another one of the, you know, everyone thinks they can freestyle. And so I was in another situation, ripped this kid up, and this guy was like, yo, I have a band, but it's all instrumental and we need a singer. Would you sing? And so I was like, sure. I came down there. Fast forward, we won Battle of the Bands, where we got to open for Ludacris.
Wow.
And
So
it
this
was a
was like
seven,
at the college? There's a
yep,
college battle of the bands?
college Battle of the Bands. It was 7-piece funk band. And I was at the time, I'm like between the classic rock and the hip hop, there's also a big um, like Janis Joplin and James Brown and Muddy
Mhm.
Waters. Like there was a big blues phase for me. And so that mixed in with this funk band where we did like a blues funk version of Ludacris area codes, where it's like, I've got hoes in
Uh,
different area. And like a horn section, like dun 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 dun. And it was really cool because we played that next to Ludacris, and he like shouted. It was awesome.
that's rad.
Yeah.
Is that the song you played for the battle of the bands too? Or
The
did you
battle
do
of the
something
battle of the
different?
bands, we didn't do that. We worked that one when we knew we were opening for Ludacris, but the battle
Okay.
of the bands songs were like you know, Soul Man, and there were two that I had written. So I was just getting into like, I really love writing music. Let's try to like workshop this. And me and the drummer just had like a vibe. The drummer
Mhm.
is Rob Resnick, and me and him would go on to form Timeflies from this.
Okay. From
But
this band.
from this band, and everyone, I went to school and I was studying econ or something boring, and then I was like, everyone in the band was a music major, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna major in music, and started doing that, and started, you know, exploring and learning more about the craft. And this um everyone was like very into like, it's right because it's wrong, you know, which I love, like the jazz brain, jazz heads. Oh god, I'm so sorry. But they Rob, the drummer, and I really
Mhm.
connected on like, yeah, but I feel like this is more like, you know, we had a sensibility of um we were just kind of aligned on what we wanted to
Mhm.
do. And so that we ended up um it was we were doing a summer course. We stayed around campus, and the rest of the band left, and then we started writing original music. And you know, it was just like for our friends to like play at parties, and then one of our friends sent it around to a bunch of blogs and other places, and it kind of blew up. And then we were like, oh, if they like that, let's look at
Oh.
this. And it
So
just
is that so were you guys time flies at this time, or was it just
I
let's just
think
have
that
fun or kind of hanging out and then
I think that first post said it was Fade was the name of the song, and it was Cal produced by Rob Resnick, or Timeflies, Cal produced. I forget the exact wording, but the next release we were Timeflies, and we were like, damn, why doesn't it say Timeflies? And we had that. We were terrible procrastinators, and we would always say Timeflies, and just kind of like stuck as a name for us, and we would call each other. And so we immediately knew that was going to be our name, and then we started working on our sound.
Wow. So it all started with just, do you know who was sending around the song, or just happened
Yeah,
to land in somebody?
he's still my manager.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he was our housemate in college, and he's a great guy. And it's actually my 2 housemates in college are managers, and they're incredible, and they're now big managers in the industry. But we all kind of learned the industry together.
That is awesome. Then
Yeah,
you all kind of came up together then.
yeah. It was like we were big fans of the show Entourage, and we were just doing it.
I love it. I love it. So that song really, set the pace for what ended up happening with Time Flies, and
Yeah,
obviously millions of streams later.
yeah. I mean, well, what it did was it created this. I wish blogs were still the way that they were this is probably like our first release, maybe 2011.
Mhm.
And at this time, blogs are like defining like, oh my God, who is this dance artist? Like,
Right.
remember, dance wasn't dominating radio at this time. Like Avicii puts out Levels, and they're like, this can't work at radio. We have to put Flow Ride on it and make it a pop song.
Right.
So
Right.
at this time, dance was kind of leading the way in that sense, or blogs were leading the way in that sense of like, oh, these cool hip hoppy sounds mixed with these dance elements that you're not hearing on radio.
Mhm.
There's no stream. You're not like finding these obscure artists on Spotify or something. So blogs were the wave. And so we started getting deep into that community, and just posting original music there. And then we had the idea to do Time Flies Tuesday, which was me picking topics out of a hat and freestyling every Tuesday. And
That's a rad idea.
that kind of sent us.
And where were you doing that? Like on YouTube or
Yeah,
putting them?
we were posting it on YouTube, and I remember our first one got to like 1 million views, and then all of a sudden we were driving, went from like, hey, come play a show, and I'd drive my like old Volkswagen to a show, and then the next time was like a van. But because these Time Flies Tuesdays were getting bigger, there was no specific song that was blowing up, but because people were hanging out with us every Tuesday on YouTube, it was like we just kept having to upgrade the show venues. And I remember just being at this like 2,000 person show, and we pulled up in some like broken down van, and I'm like, what is happening? And then from there, rest is history.
Wow. So with these Time Flies Tuesdays, you said you'd pick a topic out of a hat and just
Yep.
freestyle off of it.
Yep.
And then would you do that live? Like, how did you have these? Like, were they songs at this point? Because it sounds like if you're just going off, then it's just happening kind of in the moment.
Right there. So what we do is Rez would make a beat out of like so one of the big ones we did was like Miley Cyrus, We Can't Stop. So we take the chorus, I'd sing the chorus, and we redo the beat. And then for the verses, like the opening of the video would show him writing random words on like coffee filters or something stupid. And then I just see the word, and it would inspire something, and I'd start freestyling.
That is so rad.
And we incorporated it into our live show where we had like video walls behind us, and you could like fans in the audience could text to the screen, and they could put in their own word, and it would pop up. And then there was one song every night where I would just start freestyling, and it'd usually be like about the place I was in. So if I was in Milwaukee, it would say like Spotted Cow, which is a very popular beer, and like stuff like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
what a cruel concept. No one's doing that even now.
No.
Right? You'd think with technology as far as it is, that would be something, but you guys still can hold that as something that no one is still doing to this day.
It's crazy because, and the wild thing I think about is, the press that was written about us at that time was like, Time Flies, like reinventing the internet, all these things because of this YouTube following we were doing, that we had, and that we were posting once a week. And now I look back on that, like, once a week posting, you can't survive doing that. Like these,
no, not anymore.
Everyone, the content churn, everyone's out here doing like once every like 6 hours they're doing a post, and it's insane because that was exhausting for us. We eventually had to pause Time Flies Tuesday to focus on our albums, which was great, and we toured the world, and it was amazing. But the Time Flies Tuesday connection to our fans was really special, and I think is definitely a reason for our success.
Yeah, I mean, not only reinventing would you say reinventing the internet?
Not my words. And I was
Yeah,
like,
but
what are you talking about? But
right. No, but I
yeah,
mean, even reinventing the entire like concept of like freestyle, like
yeah,
rap battling, because you're doing it yourself. Because with somebody in the audience, it's just like Bumblebee, psh,
right,
and then you're
exactly.
like blah, 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 where it's not like you're going back and forth against someone. You're almost competing with
It's
the
not a battle.
audience.
It's more like it's just improv. And
Right. Right.
so
Exactly.
I think it's really fun for people to see. Um, and it's fun for me. It's more of a panic for me, not panic. Come on, but like it's fun to watch someone. And I rewatch the videos. I like watching them because you can see me like, how am I gonna get to Kim Kardashian as the topic? Like, what am I gonna land?
Right.
But it happens, and it's like it's fun. And so I think that's what's the edge of the seat is like when you watch a music video for a song, you're like, humming along. I know the song, this is cool, but like that's what's fun about improv, or Whose Line Is
Right.
It Anyway is one of my favorite shows. It's like, how are they gonna pull this off?
Sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly improv. It's improv, whether it be comedy, but you're doing it in music, which really no one's doing. Not a lot of people, at least.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you obviously you did Time Flies for a while,
Hmm.
and now you're doing a solo project. Tell me
Yeah.
about that. When did you decide to start Cal?
So it was I started the Cal project. I mean, I had the idea for it 2017, 2018, but it was August 2018 that uh yeah, I think it was August. Is that right? I should know this exact date. But
It's okay.
anyway, August 2019? August 28th. Anyways, a year was stolen from us. No one knows years anymore. I don't
Right. I was gonna say, was it right before the pandemic
Yeah,
or
who
a couple
knows?
years before the
I think it was
pandemic?
August 2018, but I just like I wanted to explore, and I'm still close with the Time Flies fans, and there's obviously so much music there and so much history, but I wanted to
Mhm.
explore what would my sound like. Being in a band, it's hard to establish kind of one voice, and I wanted to kind of have my message. I think my like highest streaming song right now is my a song I wrote for my wedding. You know,
Oh yeah.
crazy. And it was written as like a speech. It was a complete surprise. And it's now become the first dance song for so many people. And it's like it's just whose voice it is saying those things, because it's me. Versus in a band it gets a little more like, we're telling Rob's story, we're telling my story, we're telling this story. And so for this it's cool because I get to just you know have my like honesty, and I've gotten
Mhm.
really into production, and I wanted to explore some other elements on that side. So this is pretty much, I'm here at all times. If you're ever wondering where I am, I'm facing that way and doing things over here.
'Cause you do all the production yourself, everything is done by
I
you?
collaborate with a bunch of people. A lot of
Uh-huh.
times the starts are just me or the finishes are me, but like there's so many talented people in this town. I feel like it'd be crazy not to involve other people. But my newest song, Roll the Credits, which has
Mhm.
gotten a great reaction, I did with one of my friends, Chris, who's in Sweden. So we were actually collaborating through those time zones. But he's an incredible producer, and it's really just it's really been awesome. It's been fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you put out your first song under just Cal, was that kind of a nerve-wracking experience for you? Or are you excited? Like, were you worried how people would react that were fans of Time Flies and
I think the Time Flies community is just so much love that like
Mhm.
I wasn't worried because they have always shown me love and continue to show me love. I think the daunting thing was like, the EP that came out was called The Identity Crisis, and it was one of, it's something I've thought about my entire career, because the one knock that we would get a lot of times is like, well, what are you? I can't put you in a box. Like, what? You're rapping, but then you're like the on every Soul Cycle playlist, you're dance music, and then you're an acoustic song. And that was always like, from an industry standpoint, a negative, where I always thought that was kind of like a superpower to be like,
Mm.
it's definitely, there's a lot of ADHD going on this side of the screen. So it's like, I want to do this today. I want to do this today. But I think for me, I got to showcase and do a lot of things that I was thinking this would be a cool sound for me to explore, and just be 100%. It felt like that first improv class in high school where I was just like, doing the arm movements. This is so freeing. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, right? With
Yep.
no
Whatever I want.
expectations.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Once obviously the fans transferred over or not, or yeah,
Yeah.
fans of both projects.
Right.
So how does this like whole virus affect what you were doing? Like, were you working on this EP when COVID happened? Were you setting up a tour? Were you on the road? Like, tell me where you were at when that.
It was interesting because we were working on a campaign with that wedding song that I talked about, because that
Mm-hmm.
dropped in February, and then the pandemic hit, and there were so many people reaching out, and I felt so terrible. So many people reaching out who had to postpone their weddings or stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah,
who wanted to use it. So I actually just sang it at someone's wedding for their first dance. But it's been crazy because
that's
there's
amazing.
so many weddings that every weekend I get all these videos of people, um, performing it, and that's just so cool to me because other songs, like, songs live in moments, which is really hard to think about and articulate, and just when you're creating, you don't want to think about like who's going to listen to this when. You just want to
Mhm.
create something. But it's true, songs do live in moments. You listen to certain dance songs when you're in the gym or doing something that requires like, or you're going out to party, and you listen to more like, ooh, acoustic strumming music or beach music when you're out by the pool. So I think at that time, I was thinking about, this is very cool because this exists in this wedding lane. Like, no one's putting that on at a party. It's just
Right,
like,
right.
this is for that, and I love that. And now I get to explore all these other elements where I'm doing everything else. So the pandemic, I started doing these like quarantine videos where I was using the word COVID or something about it in videos,
Mhm.
but then we all got tired of that word. But that was buzzing for a sec. It was almost like Time Flies Tuesday-esque. And then I just started producing nonstop, everything. And so that helped me really hone my craft. And so the pandemic was, as it was for a lot of people, really frustrating and really hard,
Mhm.
but also you grew in areas I don't think you expected to. So
Sure. With this wedding song, I mean, how cool is it to be a part of, people's the bet, the most special day of their entire life and across the whole world that people are
it's
using this
crazy.
song.
It's crazy to me.
That is so rad.
Yeah, it feels very rewarding and when I see, every time I have like the stupidest smile looking at my phone when I see someone like post the thing, I'm like, oh my God, you're doing your first dance. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine looking back in high school or when you're in that class doing the
Yeah,
arm
right.
things, like, in 15 years or whatever it was from now, everyone is, or a handful of people are going to be playing a song that you wrote at their wedding, and this is going to be their first,
Never.
experience as husband and wife.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That is so rad.
It's,
So talk to me about Roll the Credits is the newest song that you just put out, and this is
yeah.
going to be a part of your EP.
Mhm.
You said you wrote this song with somebody where in Sweden,
Yeah.
and was that done via Zoom? Like, how was that
This was
something?
actually done via Zoom. I had a lot of the course written with, I was hanging with a friend who, I think sadly during the pandemic, a lot of people's relationships suffered or whatever.
Mhm.
And they were just going through the motions and telling me everything about how they were done, but they weren't, they were like, yeah, but I think we're good. And I just was like, it sounds like you're saying your relationship's over. And I kind of wrote this as like a piece of advice for my friend. And then it just started feeling so cool and started I just fell in love with the song, and I needed to put it out because it's interesting, because in everything that I've done, it's always been my truth or my story. And this one is me giving someone else advice, but then kind of assuming their voice in the song. So
Mhm.
that was interesting for me, but song slaps and I love it. So
Definitely. Tell me about the record though. The rest of the record's coming out this fall.
yeah, it will be coming out in wait, no, it will be coming out in next year.
Oh, next year. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And there are you're gonna like, I think what people have come to expect with my In the Water song with Quinn XCII and stuff like that,
Mhm.
it is, what we talked about earlier in the interview. That's like the classic rock harmonies with hip hop influence and these like boom bappy drums. And I want to be, uh, I want you to be rocking out when you're listening to it. And so things will
Mhm.
be in that sound. There's one acoustic that is a variation because I like to get ADHD with
Mhm.
it, but uh, other than that, I think people are really going to enjoy it, and it's a feeling. It's definitely
So cool.
Mhm.
Do you have any other songs with Quinn XCII? I know you have a couple out so far, right?
We've worked on some other stuff. But no, that's the only one I have out, and I had played shows with that guy dating way back. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I had a chance to interview him before. He's
Awesome.
so nice. He's
Yeah,
such a nice
he's awesome.
guy.
He's like secretly like the funniest person I know. I'm sure you got some of the like
Oh
comments.
yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he is.
And I didn't know you hear his voice doesn't match him either. Like I was like, when I was started researching him, I'm like, I would have never guessed that this is
I
the
think
voice coming out of Quinn 92.
It's so fun though for music fans. Like you think back to the, Elvis didn't have Instagram followers. Obviously, everyone knew what he looks like. But then there's so many songs that people hear where they'll never look up what the person looks like. It's kind of like I like romanticize that era where you didn't need to know everything about the artist. You were just like, I love their music.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even further back when you didn't have the internet to look up what they look like. You had to actually buy the record and go through the liner notes.
That was the one picture. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You get one photo of them. Yeah. And you also do writing with other artists, correct?
I do. I write and produce for a lot of other artists.
How's that going? Benson Boone, I saw that you worked with him.
I work with Benson Boone. Yeah. I'm currently right now working on a song for Jamie Miller, who is incredible. If you don't know him, he's going to be, remember his name, because if you don't know him, you're going to know him.
I'm going to look him up right after this.
Yeah. It's, it gives, it's such a different sensation and a different part of the craft where it's like, am I going to say that? If I'm not saying that as the artist, I get to help someone use their voice to say what they want to say. And so I've really fallen in love with the process in a way that I never knew I could. And so, it's been awesome.
I'd imagine that's quite a bit different than writing. Cause when you write a song now, do you sit down and you just do it, right? You do what you're going to do, or you had an idea, you're going to spark off that. But if you're writing with somebody else, do they come to you with an idea and you get to kind of help shape that, or do you?
Writing sessions are like therapy sessions. They're like, you talk about what's going on in your life and you just have a conversation, and then you try to capture a feeling or an emotion that comes out of that, and you write. And there's where I'm in Los Angeles and there's so many talented songwriters here. So you mix and match, you bring in different writers, you bring in different producers, and we all collaborate. And it's, that's how the magic happens. It's a crazy thing, because it does feel like a therapy session that all of a sudden turns into like beautiful music.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Do you have any shows planned coming up, or have you played live since the pandemic?
I have not played live since the pandemic. Right now, I don't have any shows planned, but we're looking at stuff for next year. And I'm ready to get back to the stage, but also, I'm just living in here. So, that's the coolest feeling, is when you go from here to the stage and you hear everyone singing the lyrics back to you. So I can't wait.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I really appreciate your time, Cal. This has been great. I thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I have one more quick question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I think one, you have to treat it nowadays, especially like it is I don't want to say a business, but you have to have goals. And I would listen to a lot of people, not just in music for advice, but a lot of people in entrepreneurship who have started their own companies, because I think a lot of times artists don't realize when they're starting, you're a brand and you're a business and you're really starting something. So write down your goals, even if they're crazy. It's say like in 6 months, I want to have 3 songs done or 5 songs, and try to start hitting those, because it's a hobby, but it's not a hobby. It's a job. So you have to treat it like one. And that's the advice I would give. Bringing it backward.